The first time my fiancée stopped answering my messages, I told myself the silence was just bad reception. I was sitting on the edge of a narrow cot in a tent that smelled like dust and machine oil, my boots still on, helmet by my feet. Outside, the generators hummed like tired insects. My phone glowed in my hand, that familiar blue light cutting through the dim. I refreshed the screen once, twice, no reply. I remember smiling anyway. You learn to do that when you're deployed. Convince yourself everything back home is fine, because the alternative is heavier than your rucksack. Before all of this, my life was simple, in the best way. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew your last name before they knew your face. My parents' house sat at the end of a gravel road, paint peeling just enough to show its age. Sunday dinners were loud. My mother cooked too much food. My father watched the same news channel every night, volume just a little too high. And then there was my brother, Aaron. He was 2 years younger than me, sharper around the edges, always watching. Where I was steady, he was restless. Where I planned, he improvised. Growing up, people used to say we balanced each other out. I believed that for a long time. When I met Emily, everything seemed to settle into place. She worked at a local veterinary clinic, smelled faintly of soap and hay, and laughed with her whole body. When she laughed, she leaned forward, hand on her knee, eyes squeezed shut. It was impossible not to smile back. We met at a fundraiser for the fire department. Bad coffee, folding chairs, a band that played covers half a beat too slow. She spilled a drink on my sleeve and apologized so much you'd think she'd ruined my life. I told her it was the most exciting thing that had happened to me all week. By our third date, she knew I was in the service. By our fifth, she knew I'd be deploying again within the year. She never tried to talk me out of it. Instead, she learned my routines, how I liked my coffee too strong, how I always double-checked the door before bed. She learned the sound of my boots on the porch and how to tell, just by my shoulders, whether I'd had a hard day. When I proposed, it wasn't dramatic. No crowd, no music, just the two of us on the back porch of her apartment, cicadas screaming in the trees, the air thick with summer. I handed her the ring with hands that shook more than they ever did on duty. She cried quietly. Then she said yes, just as quietly, like she was afraid the moment might break if she spoke too loud. We planned a small wedding. Fall, leaves, her parents' backyard. Nothing fancy. Then the orders came. We sat at the kitchen table when I told her, my duffel bag already half packed in the hallway. She traced the grain of the wood with her finger while I talked, nodding at the right moments. How long? She asked. 6 months, I said. Maybe longer. She swallowed. Okay. That was it. No drama, no fight, just that word, heavy and brave. Aaron came by the night before I left. He clapped me on the shoulder, told me he'd keep an eye on things, on Emily, on the house I was renting, on my savings account since he was already helping me manage some paperwork. You worry too much, he said, grinning. Go do your thing. I've got your back. I believed him. The first few weeks overseas were busy, exhausting. Days blurred together in a rhythm of briefings, patrols, maintenance. Nights were quieter, lonelier. That was what I'd sit on my cot and write Emily messages about the heat, the food, the sky that looked too wide at night. At first, she replied quickly. Her messages were warm, ordinary. Complaints about a sick golden retriever at the clinic, a new neighbor who parked too close to her car. She sent pictures of dinners she cooked for one, always apologizing for how boring they looked. Then the replies slowed. Hours turned into a day into 2. When she did respond, the messages were shorter. Busy day. Sorry, fell asleep early. Miss you. I reread that last one more times than I'd like to admit. I told myself it was the stress, the distance, the time difference. Everyone warned you about this part, the slow, emotional drift that happens when one life stays still and the other keeps moving. Aaron messaged me more than she did. He sent updates about my parents, about a leaky pipe at the house, about how Emily seemed a little overwhelmed, but okay. He joked about being my stand-in, said he felt like a temporary version of me. I laughed at that, staring at the screen, unaware of how close to the truth it was. One night, after a long shift, I called Emily instead of texting. It rang until voicemail. I tried again, same result. I left a message, awkward and rambling, telling her I just wanted to hear her voice. When I checked my bank account the next morning, I noticed a withdrawal I didn't recognize. Not huge, just enough to make me pause. I told myself it was a mistake, a delayed payment, something Aaron could explain. Out there, you learn to compartmentalize. You have to. There's only so much worry you can carry and still do your job. So I shoved the doubt down, focused on the next task, the next day. Still, that night, lying on my cot with the generators humming, I listened to the silence of my phone and felt something shift inside me, quietly, like a hairline crack forming under pressure. I didn't know it yet, but my life back home was already being rewritten, message by message, promise by promise, and the man holding the pen shared my last name. The doubt didn't arrive all at once. It came in small, harmless-looking moments. The way rust starts under paint. A missed call here, a delayed reply there, a strange tone in a message that I couldn't quite name but felt in my chest like a wrong note in a familiar song. Emily stopped sending photos. That was the first real shift. She used to send pictures without thinking, her coffee cup balanced on the edge of the sink, a muddy paw print on her scrubs, the sky outside her apartment window when the sunset went pink and orange. Suddenly, there were none. Just text, short lines that felt careful. "How was your day?" I'd write. "Fine, busy," she'd reply. I told myself she was tired. I told myself I was being paranoid. Out there, paranoia could get dangerous, not just emotionally, but mentally. You needed clarity. Still, I started counting the hours between messages without meaning to. One evening, the wind kicked sand against the tent walls like tiny pebbles. I was sitting on an overturned crate, cleaning dust out of a piece of equipment when my phone buzzed. My chest lifted automatically. It was Aaron. "Hey man," his message read. "Emily asked if you'd be able to send her some extra money this month. She's stressing about bills." I stared at the screen. "That's weird," I typed back. "I already set up automatic transfers for her." A pause. Then, "Yeah, she said something about that not coming through. Maybe bank glitch?" A bank glitch? Those words settled wrong. That night, I logged into my account again. The balance was lower than I expected. Not catastrophic, but noticeably thinner. Several small withdrawals scattered over weeks. Grocery store names I didn't recognize. Gas stations nowhere near Emily's place. My first instinct was to protect her, to assume someone had skimmed my card, that she was as much a victim as I was. I messaged Aaron. "Can you check on that for me? Maybe talk to the bank?" "Already on it. Don't stress." I wanted to believe him. A few days later, I finally caught Emily on the phone. Her voice sounded distant, like she was speaking through a hallway. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. "I've been missing you." There was a brief pause, not the warm kind, the kind where someone is choosing words carefully. "Yeah," she said, "I've just been busy." "With what?" I asked gently. "Work, life, you know." I smiled even though she couldn't see it. "You okay?" Another pause. I could hear faint background noise, maybe a television, maybe a car passing outside. "I guess," she said. "It's just hard doing this alone." "I know," I said, "but I'm coming back. We're getting married. This is just a season." Silence stretched between us, long enough that I checked the signal bars on my phone. "Emily? Yeah, sorry, bad connection." But her voice had shifted. Something guarded crept in, like a door half closed. After we hung up, I sat there longer than necessary, staring at the dark screen. Around me, men laughed over a card game. Someone brewed instant coffee that smelled burnt and thin. Life went on. My chest felt tight. A week later, I received a message from Emily that stopped me cold. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," she wrote. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Doing what?" I typed. "This," she said. "Waiting, not knowing, feeling like I'm talking to a stranger." A stranger. I called her immediately, straight to voicemail. I sent another message. "Talk to me, please." No reply. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The tent felt smaller than usual, the air heavier. My thoughts looped, replaying conversations, searching for missed signs. I reached out to Aaron again. "Have you noticed anything off with Emily?" His reply took longer than usual. "Well," he wrote, "she's been pretty upset lately. Says you've been distant, that you don't really open up anymore." I frowned at the screen. "That's not true," I typed. "I message her all the time." Another pause. "She showed me some of your messages," he said finally. "They were kind of cold, man. Short, like you weren't really there." My stomach dropped. "What messages?" I asked. There was a long stretch of nothing. I could imagine him reading my words, deciding how to answer. "I don't have them," he said. "She just mentioned it. Look, long distance messes with people. Don't overthink it." But I was already overthinking it. I scrolled through my message history with Emily. My words were still there. Long, affectionate, detailed. I told her about sunsets, about Stupid jokes my buddies made about how much I missed her cooking. There was nothing cold about them. So what had she seen? That question lodged itself in my mind like a splinter. A few days later, another strange thing happened. My bank flagged a larger withdrawal. This one wasn't small enough to ignore. I emailed the bank from the base computer, waiting on hold through crackling international lines until a tired representative confirmed the transaction had been authorized through my online account. My password hadn't changed. The security questions were correct. Someone had access. I changed everything that night. Passwords, PINs, recovery emails. I felt foolish for not doing it sooner. When I told Aaron, his reply was quick. Good call. Probably just a security scare. His reassurance felt thinner than it used to. Emily didn't message me for 3 days after that. When she finally did, her tone was colder. I think you've moved on, she wrote. You don't talk to me the same way anymore. You barely ask about my day. It feels like you're pushing me away. I read the message again and again, my heart pounding. That's not true, I typed back. I love you. Nothing's changed for me. Her response came slower. Then why do your messages sound like someone else? I stared at those words until the screen dimmed. Someone else. The sand outside whispered against the tent walls. A generator coughed in the distance. Somewhere, someone laughed. Inside me, a quiet unease began to harden into something sharper, an instinct that told me a line had been crossed, even if I couldn't see where. I didn't have proof, just fragments, gaps, a growing sense that parts of my life were being lived without me, and that someone I trusted was standing too close to the center of it all. The truth rarely announces itself. It waits until you're tired, distracted, unprepared. Then it steps into the room like a stranger wearing a familiar face. I found out by accident. It was late afternoon back home when I finally caught Emily on a video call. The signal was shaky, her face slightly pixelated, but seeing her at all felt like oxygen after holding my breath too long. She looked thinner, tired. Her hair was pulled back in a loose knot, strands escaping around her face. Hey, I said softly. Hey, she replied, her eyes flicking away from the camera for just a second before returning. We talked about small things at first. The weather, a dog she treated at work, a neighbor who kept leaving trash bags outside the wrong door. The conversation felt polite, careful, like two people afraid of stepping on invisible glass. Then she sighed. I don't understand why you won't just be honest with me, she said. My chest tightened. I am honest with you. Her lips pressed together. You told me last week you were thinking about not coming back after your contract ends. The room seemed to tilt. I never said that, I said slowly. Yes, you did, she replied, frustration creeping into her voice. You said you might want a fresh start, that you're tired of everything here. My hands went cold. I would never say that, I whispered. She shook her head, disbelief written across her face. You literally messaged me that. You even joked that maybe you'd let your brother take care of things back home, since he's better at that stuff anyway. The words landed like a punch to the ribs. Aaron? I said, before I could stop myself. Her eyes widened just slightly. Why are you bringing up Aaron? My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Because I never sent you a message like that, and I never talk about him like that. Silence stretched between us, the kind that buzzes. What do you mean you didn't send it? She asked cautiously. I mean exactly that, I said. Emily, can you show me that message? She hesitated. Then her phone moved, fingers tapping off screen. A moment later, she held it up to the camera. The image was blurry, but I could make out the text bubble. My name at the top of the conversation. A profile photo I recognized. Me in uniform, smiling beside her on a hiking trail, and beneath it, words I did not write. Sometimes I think I just need a clean break. Maybe I won't come back at all. Maybe it's time you moved on too. Aaron's been helping a lot. Honestly, he's better at handling things than I ever was. My stomach dropped so hard I felt nauseous. That's not me, I said, my voice barely steady. She stared at me, confusion creeping across her face. But it came from your account. I don't have those messages on my phone, I said. Someone else is sending them. Her eyes searched mine, trying to decide whether I was lying, confused, or desperate. You're saying someone hacked you? She asked. I'm saying someone is pretending to be me. The words felt surreal as they left my mouth. The call ended awkwardly after that. She said she needed time to think. Her voice wasn't angry anymore, just unsettled, shaken. When the screen went dark, I sat there frozen, the hum of electronics filling the room. My hands trembled. Aaron. His name echoed in my head, tied now to bank withdrawals, strange messages, and Emily's growing distance. I messaged him immediately. "Did you ever message Emily from my account?" The typing bubble appeared almost instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "What? No. Why would I do that?" "Because she showed me messages that I didn't send, and you were mentioned in them." A pause stretched long enough for my pulse to spike. "That's crazy," he replied. "Maybe someone cloned your account or something." My jaw tightened. "How would they know details about my life? About you?" "I don't know, man," he said. "Scammers are getting sophisticated." But his words sounded hollow even through text. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I replayed the video call again and again, the way Emily's eyes shifted when I mentioned Aaron, the way the message referenced him specifically. I logged into every account I could think of. Email, social media platforms, messaging platforms. I found login alerts from unfamiliar locations, nearby towns, places close to where Aaron lived. My chest tightened. The next day, I called my bank again. They confirmed the suspicious withdrawals had come from a device previously authorized on my account months ago, a device added while I was already deployed. I knew exactly who had access to my old laptop. Aaron had borrowed it before I left, claiming his had crashed. I told him to keep it until I got back. The pieces slid into place with a sickening clarity. I wasn't just being impersonated. I was being replaced. A cold realization settled over me. While I was eating tasteless rations under a foreign sky, my brother had been stepping into my life, one message at a time, building trust, shaping narratives, slowly erasing me. I reached out to Emily again, carefully. "Can you check something for me?" I wrote. "Look at the account you've been messaging. Check the login history or linked email if you can." She responded hours later. "It's linked to an email I don't recognize," she said. "Not yours." My chest tightened with both relief and dread. Relief that I wasn't imagining things. Dread because the truth was now undeniable. I sent her screenshots of my real message history, timestamps that showed gaps where those fake messages didn't exist. I explained everything, slowly, calmly, resisting the urge to sound panicked or accusatory. She didn't respond for a long time. When she finally did, her message was short. "I need space." That was worse than anger. Days later, I learned the final piece from my mother in a casual phone call that felt like a knife wrapped in cotton. "Oh," she said lightly, "did you know Aaron's been spending a lot of time with Emily? He's been helping her around the apartment. She seems to lean on him a lot these days." My throat went dry. "Helping her how?" "Fixing things, driving her places, keeping her company," Mom said. "It's nice she has family while you're gone." Family. I ended the call politely and stared at the wall, the weight of betrayal settling into my bones. He hadn't just stolen my messages. He had positioned himself as my replacement, my support system, my voice, and now, possibly, my future. I knew then that pretending nothing was wrong was no longer an option. Something had been taken from me, and I was going to find a way to take it back. Anger is a strange companion. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly beside you, steady and cold, waiting for direction. I didn't confront Aaron right away. Part of me wanted to explode, to call him and demand answers, to hear his voice crack or confess or deny. But another part of me, the part shaped by long nights of patience and planning, knew better. If he was willing to steal my identity, manipulate the woman I loved, and drain my savings, then he was capable of lying without blinking. So I gathered proof. Every spare moment I had, I documented everything. Screenshots of login alerts, bank statements showing the withdrawals, email records from unfamiliar IP addresses, all tracing back to locations near his apartment. I asked Emily, carefully, respectfully, if she would send me the screenshots of the messages she'd received. She hesitated at first, but eventually sent them. Long conversations, intimate ones, conversations where I talked about loneliness, doubt, growing apart. He had studied my voice well enough to imitate it, or at least he had learned which emotional strings to pull. Reading those messages felt like reading a distorted version of myself, a cruel mirror. I saved everything. I contacted the platforms and reported the compromise. compromised accounts. I froze my credit, changed every password again, this time with two-factor authentication on everything. The bank opened a fraud investigation. Each step felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. The hardest part was Emily. We spoke once more, briefly. Her voice was tired, guarded. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she admitted. "I understand," I said quietly. "I just want you to know I never abandoned you. I never told you to move on." She exhaled slowly. "I need time. This is a lot." I didn't push. Trust doesn't heal on command. A week later, my deployment ended early due to rotation changes. I didn't tell anyone I was coming home, not even my family. I needed to see things with my own eyes before the story could shift again. The airport smelled like coffee and disinfectant. People rushed past with rolling suitcases and tired faces. The normalcy felt unreal after months of dust and uniforms. I drove straight to my old neighborhood. Emily's car was parked outside her apartment. So was Aaron's. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I didn't go inside. I didn't knock. I didn't want a scene fueled by adrenaline and half answers. Instead, I parked across the street and watched. The light inside her living room glowed warm against the dusk. Curtains shifted. A silhouette moved past the window. Tall, familiar. I sat there longer than I should have, my chest heavy but strangely calm. The proof was no longer theoretical. He was inside my life. The next morning, I went to my parents' house. My mother hugged me too tightly, her voice breaking with surprise. My father clapped my shoulder, proud and reserved as always. "Aaron will be thrilled you're home," Mom said. "He's been such a help while you were gone." I swallowed. "Is he coming by today?" "Tonight," she said. "We're doing dinner." Perfect. Dinner smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary. The table was set like a small celebration, extra napkins, real plates instead of the everyday ones. Aaron arrived smiling. He froze when he saw me. Just for a fraction of a second, but I saw it. The flicker of shock behind his eyes before the mask slid back into place. "Bro," he said, stepping forward. "You're home early." "Yeah," I replied evenly. Surprise. We hugged. His arms were tense. We made small talk through dinner. My parents chatted about neighbors and grocery prices. Aaron laughed in the right places, but he barely met my eyes. After dessert, I asked him to step outside with me. The evening air was cool. Crickets sang in the grass. The porch light buzzed faintly. I leaned against the railing. "How's Emily?" His jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "She's okay. Been stressed." "Yeah," I said softly. "I bet." He shifted his weight. Silence stretched. "I know what you've been doing," I said calmly. His eyes snapped to mine. "What are you talking about?" "You logged into my accounts. You messaged Emily pretending to be me. You drained my money. You positioned yourself as her support while convincing her I was pulling away." His face paled slightly. "That's insane," he said. "You sound paranoid." I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the screenshots. One by one, I showed him the evidence. Timestamps, IP addresses, bank logs, message comparisons. His mouth opened, closed. The air between us felt thick. "You don't understand," he said finally, his voice low. "I was just trying to help. She was lonely. You were never there. Helping doesn't look like identity theft," I said quietly. His shoulders slumped. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he admitted. "It just happened. She started talking to me more. I thought maybe this is what was supposed to happen." Anger flared, but I kept my voice steady. "So you decided to erase me?" He didn't answer. "I've already reported everything. The bank, the platforms. If you don't come clean to the family and to Emily, this will go further." His face tightened with fear and shame. "You'd really do that to your own brother?" he whispered. I looked at him, the boy I grew up with, now a stranger wearing his face. "You already did this to me," I said. He didn't follow me back inside. That night, the weight of it all finally settled into my chest. The loss, the betrayal, the grief of realizing the person you trusted most was capable of quietly dismantling your life. But for the first time in months, the truth was no longer hiding. It was standing in the open, and now it would have to face the light. The fallout didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came in slow waves, awkward silences, broken routines, conversations that felt like walking through glass. Aaron confessed to our parents 2 days later. I wasn't in the room when he did it. I sat on the back porch, listening to the muffled rise and fall of voices through the screen door, the clink of dishes still in the sink from breakfast. My mother cried. My father's voice dropped into a low, dangerous quiet I hadn't heard since childhood. When Aaron finally came outside, his eyes were red, his shoulders rounded like a man carrying something too heavy for his frame. "They know," he said. I nodded. He stood there for a moment, hands shoved into his pockets, staring at the yard where we'd once played catch until the sun disappeared behind the trees. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't hear him, but because forgiveness wasn't something I could reach for yet without lying to both of us. The bank returned most of the stolen money within a few weeks. The investigation confirmed unauthorized access tied to Aaron's IP address and device. He didn't fight it. He signed what he needed to sign. The platforms restored my accounts. The fake profile vanished like smoke, but the damage it left behind lingered in invisible ways. Emily remained distant. We met for coffee one afternoon at a small cafe near the clinic. The place smelled like cinnamon and burnt espresso. Rain tapped gently against the windows, blurring the street outside into soft gray streaks. She looked nervous when she walked in, fingers twisting around the strap of her bag. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I replied. We sat across from each other, steam rising between us like a fragile barrier. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I should have trusted you more." I shook my head. "You were manipulated. That's not your fault." Her eyes shimmered. "I feel like I don't know what's real anymore." I understood that feeling too well. We talked for nearly 2 hours about what happened, about how trust erodes quietly, about how loneliness can distort perception. There were tears, long pauses, half smiles that didn't quite reach our eyes. In the end, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I care about you," she said softly, "but I don't know if we can go back to what we were. Too much broke." The honesty stung, but it was clean pain, not the jagged kind a betrayal brings. "I understand," I said, and I meant it. We didn't end things dramatically, no raised voices, no ultimatums, just a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes love doesn't survive the damage done to it, even when no one intended harm. Aaron moved out of town shortly after. A new job, a quiet restart. Our parents spoke to him occasionally. I didn't. Not out of spite, but out of boundaries. Some bridges need time before they can even be considered for rebuilding. I focused on reclaiming my own life. I returned to work, reconnected with old friends, fixed the small things that had been neglected while I was away, a loose tab and hinge, a flickering porch light, a patch of weeds in the yard that had grown wild. Each task grounded me, reminded me that stability is built through ordinary acts of care. Slowly, the anger softened into something quieter, not forgiveness yet, but understanding. Understanding that insecurity, envy, and unresolved wounds can twist people into versions of themselves they barely recognize.
Didn't excuse what Aaron did, but it allowed me to release the weight of carrying his choices inside my own chest. Months later, I received a message from him. Just 3 words. "I hope you're okay." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "I'm healing," I wrote back. It was the truth. Life didn't magically reset. Trust didn't instantly repair itself, but peace began to return in small, steady ways. Morning light through open curtains, quiet dinners, laughter that came easier than before. Sometimes loss clarifies what truly matters. I learned that identity isn't just a name or a login or a role someone assigns you. It's the way you show up when no one is watching. It's the choices you make when fear or jealousy whispers shortcuts. It's the integrity you protect even when no one else is protecting you. And I learned that rebuilding doesn't always mean getting back what you lost. Sometimes it means becoming someone stronger, calmer, and more grounded than the person you were before. If you were in my place, would you have confronted your brother the way I did? Would you have chosen boundaries over bitterness? If this story resonated with you, consider supporting the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences matter more than you know. Somewhere out there, someone else might need to hear that healing is possible, even after the deepest betrayal.